Pretty much. Rufus, we are on air. And I don't know, Patan, sound technician, Rufus says that he can't clearly get us from the studio. Rufus, is that what it is?
Yes.
Yes. So we need to increase our volume, isn't it?
Yes.
All right. Patan, so you could hear. So let's get our volume increased so that Rufus can get us clearly as we continue with this conversation. Actually, let me introduce him. Rufus Kamau. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm very fine, Simba.
Fantastic. Also in the studio this morning, we are joined by OGWANG. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing better.
Fantastic. All right. This is your economic review. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiage. Let's get the ball rolling. Now, members of parliament have failed to debate on a bill that is seeking to have telecommunications companies in the country to split their business from their mobile money transfers and lending units. Now, the bill, the Kenya Information and Communications Amendment Bill, sponsored by GEM Member of Parliament Elisha Odhiambo, seeks to address concerns that a communications giant, Safaricom, has become too big to be managed through its dominant market. Now, the bill, which is now a second attempt to split the telecommunications giant, had only 2 out of 349 legislators showing interest in debating its content with Mr. Odhiambo and his Nyando counterpart, Jared Okello, the only lawmakers who contributed to the debate on the second reading of the bill. It now looks like it will be quite an uphill task for Mr. Odhiambo to convince members of parliament to back his intentions to break up the telcos in the country. Just before we jump onto that conversation this morning, let's look at exactly where we are with that data set on exactly how M-Pesa is therefore benefiting Safaricom this morning. And you could look at that. We're looking at it in a half year over 2021. You could see where we are in terms of that service revenue for Safaricom as well, which we do know is heavily contributed to by M-Pesa as well. Let's cross over to the next one this morning as well. When we look at it, we'll be giving you the next data set when and how we have it shortly. Let me cross over to yes, we do have it. That's what we're waiting for. And if you look at where we are, then you could see exactly where M-Pesa is in terms of that revenue in a half year 2021, which is particularly contributed to heavily by M-Pesa. And you could see where we are with SMS and fixed data and others as well. And you could see that M-Pesa is also contributing heavily, just as voice and outgoing revenue is also contributing heavily to the service revenue for Safaricom. Ogwang,
Yes.
second time in asking
Okay.
for Safaricom to have M-Pesa Bank, meaning that should this go through, then M-Pesa would come under CBK. And the first one was in 2019, which failed. This one came up in 2020, crossing over now to 2021, and you could say no particular interest, just 2 out of 349. I mean, the sponsors of the bill themselves are the one who was saying, yeah, we need to separate it.
Okay.
It's going into the second reading, meaning that if they do not draw majority of the legislators in the House, then it is, for the second time running, dead even before it begins.
Okay.
Let's go back again. Is there a reason for us to say separate Safaricom from M-Pesa? And if you look at these arguments, they're saying that it will be efficient, it will be fluid, it will be better in the sense that since it's dealing in money, then indeed at this time, when we're even having the digital lenders in the country come under the regulation of the Central Bank of Kenya, then it will be seamless across the board.
Okay.
Is there a reason for us to believe that M-Pesa will be better if it's an M-Pesa bank?
Thank you very much, Simba. First of all, under the laws of Kenya today, you cannot conduct any money remittance of any form
Yes.
without getting a license from CBK.
Yes.
So actually, M-Pesa is under the radar of CBK. I
Yes.
have a client who was seeking a license to do money remittance, digital money remittance. We are waiting for CBK to award us that license 2 years down the line.
Yes.
So as at now, the question is not, is M-Pesa under CBK radar? One of the things, and I want to mean this very, very gently, I think the MP lacks something to do. The MP is idle.
Yes.
The MP is idle on so many fronts.
Yes.
One, what is M-Pesa? M-Pesa is a subsidiary of Safaricom in the context that M-Pesa is an invention of Safaricom.
Yes.
M-Pesa was not among its areas of business.
Yes.
Today, if you incorporate an organization under the laws of Kenya, and then you put together something called an article of association, right? Under the articles of association, how many lawyers have come up to invent whereby an organization can do anything under the sun is that we are going to pursue anything that is incidental to the interest of the shareholders.
Yes.
So to that extent, M-Pesa is an invention of Safaricom. But let me ask us this. It is not that M-Pesa is too big or Safaricom is too big. That is not the thing. What are they telling us without telling us? As a lawyer, I'm trained to look at something that someone is telling me without someone telling me.
Yes.
These guys have been pushing this conversation
Quite some time now,
that
hasn't it? Yes.
Safaricom is a monopoly.
Yes.
So let us define a monopoly. A monopoly is an organization that operates within an existing industry. Did M-Pesa or the mobile money telephony remittance, did it exist? No, it didn't exist. So under intellectual property, M-Pesa literally created its own industry that you cannot separate it from. To that extent, and that's why I'm saying, with all due respect, the MP has become a busybody, and that one is shown even by his own colleagues not participating in his busybodiness. As at now, the entire conversation is actually around monopoly. Under the definition of monopoly, M-Pesa or Safaricom is not performing or operating as a monopoly. So that guy is just a busybody.
Pretty much. I'll be coming back to you on that because there are a lot of conversation points around that area. Let me cross over to Woofers. Woofers, can you confirm you can get me clearly now?
Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that. Now, Woofers, you hear what OGWANG is saying, busybody, that you can't really therefore say that you can start separating M-Pesa from Safaricom. He's saying that under IP, M-Pesa is an invention of Safaricom that is inseparable. Agree?
Yes.
Disagree?
I agree. So when you look at Safaricom,
Yes.
It's literally a technology company. A lot of inventions have come from the company, and Safaricom products tend to be integrated. So if
Yes.
you look at the mobile business and M-Pesa, they are basically conjoined together. So the performance of one is dependent on the other. So trying to separate the company would basically hinder their innovativeness. And considering one of the key factors about Safaricom, being the leading company in the Nairobi exchange, at the same time, if you compare with other industries, let's say the US, you notice that these big companies tend to be the biggest employers in an economy. So if you look at the US, the biggest employer right now, is, besides the government, is Amazon and also Walmart.
Yes.
So if you look at Kenya, besides the government, Safaricom is one of the biggest employers in the economy right now. So if you want to separate the company and hinder its innovativeness, then the future creation of more jobs by the company might be affected.
Yes.
So I would say the company is still young. It's yet to spread its wings through to other countries within Africa. So I would say the government has a responsibility to support this company, being one of the biggest employers within the economy.
Yes. Fantastic. Ogwang, let's come back to that as well, because I did look at exactly what they were fronting in the bill, and this is it. This is it. They're saying now, with M-Pesa, you can open an account. Your money mobile wallet is actually a possibility. They're saying you can ask for a loan, you can save with the M-Pesa products, essentially making it a deposit-taking company, essentially making it an account-opening company, separate from what the company says it does.
Yeah.
Meaning that if then you want to control the rates, you want to control the efficiency and the use of this money, you would rather bring the entirety of M-Pesa under the control of the Central Bank of Kenya. Is there weight in that argument of Ogwang?
The problem is,
Yes.
I would wish you check the law of banking.
Yes.
Some of those wording were defined later. The problem with how we have structured our legal system is that we copy-paste.
Yes.
And we copy-paste without understanding the extent of certain definitions.
Yes.
So, as at now, what is depositing under the law? Depositing under the law has not been reviewed to actually capture digital, whatever you do as saving.
Yes.
So we will need of a necessity, if we are to deal with that,
Yes.
then it's important, first of all, we go back to the architecture of the law of banking.
Yes.
So the challenge is the basic architecture of the law of banking.
Yes.
But even what I wouldn't want us to miss our grasp, the bill on the face value, there is something that lawyers are trained.
Yes.
How to look at a bill and to ask yourself, what is this bill really after?
Yes.
The bill on its face value might appear that, oh, we want to open up the space for competition. Who has been barring the competitors from competing? No one has barred them from competing. So to that extent, it's in my best interest to outcompete everyone in my space.
Yes.
You don't come and ask me, hey, you are making all the profit.
Yes.
The challenge with this bill is that this bill is tailored around curtailing business growth and diversification.
Yes.
Entrepreneurship is constantly about inventing and being innovative, not only in the service delivery, but opening up market spaces.
Yes.
Safaricom has been very innovative in opening up that market space.
Yes.
They should not be reprimanded for that because their competitors are not catching up.
Yes.
That is the challenge that I
Pretty
feel.
much. And that's the same question that I wanted to put to Rufus this morning, because under that bill, Rufus, I mean, it's in very small quarters. You hear people say, well, the dominant player, and we have a right to call Safaricom the dominant player in that space. What we do know is that there are other players in that specific industry in the country, Rufus. So indeed, should have this bill then, should have this bill addressed the dominancy of Safaricom? And is that what we as a country are afraid to touch on when it comes to Safaricom?
Right. So when it comes to market dominance,
Yes.
I believe it's a credit to the company. If a company is really doing well, they have good products,
Yes.
then eventually they are set to dominate in an industry. So monopolies are not at all bad. So if you look at other economies and the monopolies that are leading in the spaces, such as Google, if you go to the Chinese Alibaba and so on, they tend to perform well. The only problem comes when companies exploit their monopoly power.
Yes.
So they are doing something like underpricing their products to outcompete their competitors. Then in that case, it would be a problem. And if there would be such a bill in Parliament,
Yes.
it would control how these companies use their monopoly power. So if you look at other jurisdictions and how they are doing to their biggest companies, they are only limiting the exploitation of monopoly power in order to promote other companies and give them a free space to compete on an equal ground.
Yes.
So the same thing applies to Safaricom. So when they try to be more innovative, they have better products than their competitors, then in this case, the dominance is a credit rather than a risk.
Fantastic. let's clear that conversation like this, Wang. You hear what he's saying, that it only becomes a risk when the way in which the dominant player runs their business is a challenge to other players in the industry or in the specific sector to do their business. But from the government side as well, when you look at how Safaricom now has controlled 99% of business-to-business transactions in the country. I mean, it's never unusual for us to say we can't run the economy today because M-Pesa is down. When you look at it from that perspective, and I want to quote the CEO for Telkom Kenya, who once said, and I remember that time when Airtel Kenya wanted to merge with Telkom Kenya, sure. He said, well, Safaricom went to court and said they can't merge unless the two players pay us our debt. Yes. When the CA awarded frequency numbers to yes. Telkom and Airtel, yes. Safaricom went to court and said, why are you awarding a smaller player in the name of Telkom Airtel yes. higher frequencies yes. than the bigger player? Yes. And it looks as if it went their way.
Yes.
But when you look at that, are we comfortable, OGWANG? And I'll be confident enough to ask that question because you never see that question get asked a lot.
Okay.
For economy to run on one company.
No, we are not running on one company. We are not running on one company.
But what the statistics show different.
We have multiple players yes. who are lacking capacity. We have multiple players.
Yes.
The only thing they're lacking is capacity.
But
let me give yes. you the reverse of that.
Yes.
The other monopoly which we should cap is Kenya Power. Kenya Power is actually dominant. It's yes. a monopoly. Safaricom is not a monopoly in the strictest definition of the phrase monopoly. As at now, we don't need another law to yes. come and regulate Safaricom. Guess what? We have Anti-Competition Authority. We have CSK, Communication Authority of Kenya.
Yes.
All these people are regulating Safaricom. We even have Central Bank regulating Safaricom. So as at now, Safaricom is just being agile in their market space by out-inventing their competition.
Yes.
The only person that under the market space of Kenya that requires actually, I wish this MP, the Member of Parliament,
yes.
I wish the Honorable would have put himself in the purview of Kenya Power. Kenya Power is dominant. Kenya Power is actually a monopoly because Kenya Power has put it so high that you cannot even outcompete Kenya Power. They tried, some guys tried to be innovative to bring in solar. Do you know what Kenya Power came up with? That today if you want to set up solar, you need to get licensing from Kenya Power.
Yes.
Now that is monopoly.
Yes.
Has Safaricom ever said that? The only challenge that we have with some of the competition of Safaricom is they lack capacity. Dominance is not dominance when your competitors have capacities.
Yes.
Dominance is only dominance when your competitors lack the avenue of appearing in that market space.
Fantastic. But OGWANG, I want to ask you this question before we move on to the next one.
Please do.
So when you see a company, yes, that have risen through its own innovativeness yes. to get to the level where Safaricom is right now,
yes.
then is it not okay under the common law thinking that indeed let's raise other companies also to get a share of that space, because it is not okay to let one company dominate.
And that's the challenge that we have. We are trying to regulate a capitalistic marketplace
yes.
using socialism ideologies. The government has no interest in business
yes.
to the extent of controlling how business is carried around. As long as we can say that your business is not breaking any law, there is a reason why it's called free market economy.
Yes.
A free market economy is an economy whereby someone comes up with products and services that is fit for human consumption, and as much as that person is playing alongside the environment of legal space,
yes.
that person should operate. The challenge that we are going is we want to put in place, and I believe in as much as we are trying to advance separation of church and state, the thing that should actually be separated is separation of government from the market space. As at now, the MP lacks even competence to understand what it means to be monopolistic as at now.
Yes.
So what we need to factor ourselves is this called a free economy? Is it a free market economy? Yes, it is a free market economy.
Yes.
So as a free market economy, we're asking, has Safaricom met the barometer? It has met the barometer. So we cannot penalize Safaricom for the lack of awareness or the lack of competitiveness or the lack of ambition
Yes.
on the part of Airtel.
Yes.
What was Telecom before Telecom became Telecom? Telecom was actually here. So if there was a person that ought to have seized an opportunity to be dominant, it's Telecom. They forfeited that.
Fantastic. What was clear for us this conversation now? For you hear OGWANG is saying, well, no, that's a company that has risen within its ranks. It's not dominant. It's not suppressing any other person's capacity to perform. But remember, when the current CEO took over, that is Ndegwa, majority of analysts said the only thing that Ndegwa is coming in to do for Safaricom is be active in issues legislation. Issues like this that I want to separate M-Pesa from Safaricom. Rufus, from what you're saying this morning, the government's take in Safaricom, does it make it harder for any legislation that looks to streamline the operation of Safaricom?
Safaricom is a victim of its own success. So it has become so big. If you look at the stock market, it's the biggest, the most dominant company. And also when it comes to performance, the performance is also very good.
Yes.
So when it comes to growth and as jobs, as already mentioned,
Yes.
Safaricom has been really dominant. So when the regulators are focusing on Safaricom, they're basically playing catch up, and it's quite common thing in the financial technology sector. So if you look at other jurisdictions, they are all playing catch up.
Yes.
Because financial innovation is growing, it's going very fast. If you look at, let's say, the cryptocurrency sector, it's a new sector in financial innovation.
Yes.
That is harassing a lot of regulators around the world. They are trying to catch up to understand what is this thing, how can we regulate it. So the same case is happening with Safaricom.
Yes.
They came up with a new money transaction application, in this case M-Pesa, and this M-Pesa has grown. They are offering even more services, not just sending and receiving money. And every time they add a new product, it's adding to the complexity of the regulation. So I would say the job is on the regulator to make sure that if they are looking to implement or add any more regulations to the company,
Yes.
they don't hinder the innovativeness of the company or even the performance of the company. So the government's role should be more or less supportive rather than limiting.
Fantastic. All right, we take a short break here on a Business AM, but we go out with this question. If a county has a lot of pending bills, and especially to the suppliers, should they receive money from the national government, or should they pay the pending bills and then receive money from the national government? Remember, it is the duty of the National Treasury to give the county government their share of money in each budgetary year. Should we introduce a clause that says, if you have pending bills, you're not receiving? Once we come back here on a Business AM.